The Story Dragon podcast presents Prince Leopold and the Ring of Dreams. Prince Leopold was bored. Not just the kind of bored where you sigh and prop up your face with your elbow on the table. No, this was royal boredom. The kind that made him slouch on his throne, roll his eyes at royal banquets, and groan loudly every time his tutors droned on about proper etiquette. A prince must be dignified, they always said. A prince must be wise. A prince must be patient. But never, not once, had anyone said, a prince must have fun. So, when the palace magician, a man with sharp eyes and a sly grin, approached him one evening, Leopold sat up straight. The magician held out a silver ring, its surface swirling like a tiny storm trapped in metal. "A gift, your highness," the magician said smoothly, "for those restless nights when even royal beds feel like prison bars." Leopold took the ring, slipping it onto his finger. That night, the moment he drifted off to sleep, he felt himself falling, not through the sky, but through time. When he landed, he was no longer in his grand palace. He was in the middle of a noisy street, surrounded by giant metal carriages, flashing lights, and the smell of something called pizza. Leopold spun around. A girl in strange clothing. She wasn't wearing a long gown like he was used to. The girl was wearing denim pants, sneakers, and a bright orange jacket, and she was staring right at Leopold. You aren't from Ohio, are you?" she said. She was looking at his clothes from the palace with a surprised expression on her face and raised eyebrows. And that was how Prince Leopold's adventure began. Leopold stumbled backward, staring at the girl. "Ohio?" he repeated. The word tasted odd on his tongue. "What kingdom is that?" The girl laughed. "Kingdom? This is just, well, Ohio. You know, in the U.S.?" Leopold frowned. He most certainly did not know. He looked around. There were tall buildings instead of castle towers, strange glowing signs instead of torchlit hallways, and people everywhere dressed in the oddest clothes that he'd ever seen. "This has to be some sort of magic," he muttered. Then, remembering his manners, he straightened and gave the girl a small bow. "I am Prince Leopold of Rothsgard, and you are?" The girl gave him a curious look. I'm Maddie, and are you okay? You look like you just walked out of a history book or something." Leopold brushed the dust off his tunic. "I assure you, I just walked out of the palace." He glanced down at his hand and gasped. The silver ring! It was glowing faintly. "This must be it," he said under his breath. "The magician's gift." Maddie raised an eyebrow. Magician?" Before Leopold could answer, a loud honk made him jump. A massive metal beast, something Maddie called a bus, roared past, sending a gust of wind that nearly knocked him over. "This place is madness!" he exclaimed. "I demand to be returned home at once." Maddie snorted. "Yeah, good luck with that. But hey, if you're lost, my friend Jack and I can help." Leopold sighed, realizing that he had little choice. "Very well, Maddie of Ohio, lead the way." As night went on, Maddie and her friend Jack taught Leopold about the strange new world he had landed in. Glowing screens called TVs, food that came in boxes, and tiny glass orbs that let people talk across great distances. Leopold had never seen such wonders, even in the palace's greatest books of magic. But as he was just starting to enjoy himself, a terrible vision flashed in his mind. He saw his home, the castle, the kingdom, dark and twisted, vines creeping up the stone walls, shadows stretching over the land, and in the throne room, laughing with power, was the palace magician. Leopold's heart pounded. He suddenly understood. This wasn't a gift, he whispered, looking down at the ring. It was a trick. While I dream, he takes my kingdom. Maddie and her newly arrived friend Jack looked at each other. That sounds really bad, Jack said. Leopold clenched his fists. I have to go back. I have to stop him. Maddie crossed her arms. Okay, but if that creepy magician dude is taking over your home, you'll need backup. Leopold blinked. You mean you would come with me? Jack grinned. Are you kidding? Time travel? Magic? An evil wizard? There's no way we're missing out. Leopold smiled for the first time that night. Maybe, just maybe, he hadn't come to Ohio for no reason. Maybe he had found exactly what he needed. Friends who were ready for adventure. And the ring's glow grew stronger. He grabbed their hands and whispered, Hold on. Then, with a rush of wind and a flash of silver light, Ohio disappeared. Leopold felt the wind rush past his face, his stomach twisting as he were tumbling through the stars. Maddie's grip tightened around his hand, and he could hear Jack shouting something, though it was hard to tell if it was fear or excitement. Then, with a whoosh, they landed. Leopold blinked. The air was cool, thick with the scent of damp stone and old books. Flickering torches lined the grand stone hallways of Rothsgard Castle. But something was wrong. The golden banners of his family were gone, replaced with dark purple tapestries embroidered with the strangest of symbols. Vines with thorny black roses slithered up the walls, and eerie shadows stretched unnaturally in the corners. Jack let out a low whistle. Okay, I was expecting something more like Disney World, but this is way creepier. Leopold's heart pounded. We must hurry. If the magician has taken the throne, there's no telling what he's done to my family. They crept through the halls, keeping to the shadows. The palace, once filled with laughter and music, was silent. Too silent. Then, a voice echoed through the hall. You've returned, my prince. Leopold froze. At the top of the grand staircase stood the palace magician, his long robes flowing like liquid darkness. His eyes glowed an unnatural green, and in his hand he held a twisted staff crackling with dark energy. I should have known you'd figure it out, the magician sneered. But you're too late. The kingdom belongs to me now. Don't you mean the kingdom belongs to me now? Asked Jack. Silence! The magician bellowed. The throne is mine. The kingdom as well. Leopold stepped forward, his hands curling into fists. Not if I have anything to say about it. The magician laughed. Brave words for a boy who plays in his dreams, but what can you do against me? He raised his staff, and the shadows around them came to life, twisting and reaching out like living creatures. Maddie grabbed Leopold's arm. Tell me we have a plan? Jack pulled something out of his pocket. I have a flashlight. Leopold stared at the small plastic device. How does that help? Jack shrugged. Well, it's really bright. The magician flicked his wrist, and the shadows lunged. Maddie yelped as they snaked toward her, but Jack clicked on the flashlight and whoosh! The shadows recoiled, hissing like steam hitting fire. Leopold's eyes widened. Jack, do that again! Jack grinned and shone the beam directly at the magician. The dark tendrils shrank back, and for the first time, the magician looked worried. What is that? He hissed. Maddie smirked. Technology? You wouldn't get it. Leopold didn't waste a second. He charged forward, yanking the glowing ring from his finger and tossing it on the floor. The magician's eyes widened in horror as the boy took a warhammer from the suit of armor on the wall. No! Leopold swung the hammer against the ring on the floor. There was a blinding flash of silver light, and then boom! The castle trembled. The dark vines shriveled. The shadows evaporated. And the magician let out one last furious scream before vanishing into a swirl of black smoke. Silence fell. Then a distant clang of a door unlocking. Leopold turned to see the great throne room doors creaking open, and standing there, free at last, were his mother and father, the true king and queen of Rothsgard. Leopold! His mother cried, running to embrace him. His father smiled proudly. You've saved the kingdom, my son. Leopold beamed. He turned to Maddie and Jack. We saved the kingdom. Jack dusted off his jacket. Yeah, no big deal. Just fought an evil wizard with a flashlight. Leopold looked at the ring, now dull and ordinary in his palm. Maybe the magician had meant to trap him in his dreams, but instead he had found something better. Friends who turned dreams into reality. And finally, an adventure worth telling.